Okay, this is the algebraic proofs practice. So we had the 4 proofs on the one side, and on the other side we had 2 proofs, and then we had some other problems to do. Okay, so proofs, we want to start with statements and reasons. Right, 2-column proofs, so statements, reasons. Okay, we always start with what we are given. So here we are given that 4 times quantity x plus y is going to equal 48, and we are also given that y equals 6, so we have 2 givens. First thing we want, we're trying to prove that x equals 6. So we basically want to do the algebra out, and our last step here should say x equals 6. So first we want to substitute in. Okay, so we get 4, and then x plus 6 equals 48. Okay, so how did we get this step? We did this by substitution. So instead of putting y, we substituted in the 6. So our reason is the substitution property of equality. So substitution property of equality. Okay, step 3 is to distribute. So when we distribute our 4, we get 4x plus 24 equals 48. Okay, and that is our distributive property. Property. Then we need to subtract 24 from both sides. Okay, so this is going to be subtraction property of equality. Okay, so we subtract 24 from both sides, and we get 4x equals 24. Okay, when we divide each side by 4, we're going to get x equals 6. So this is going to be our division property of equality. So POE, property of equality. Okay, and that's the first one. So we started with our given. We substituted in the y equals 6. Okay, we distributed, subtracted 24 from both sides, and then divided both sides to get x equals 6. So again, when we're doing our proofs, the question is, how did we get each step? How did we get this? It was given. How did we get this? We substituted in the 6 for the y. How did we get here? We distributed. How did we get here? We subtracted 24 from both sides. How did we get here? We divided both sides by 4. Okay, let's look at the next one. Oh, we're as far over as we can go. Okay, so let's change up the color maybe. Okay, now we're going to do the second one here. So statements and reasons. First step in any proof is always your given. So we're given that 2 times 4 minus x minus 5x equals 78. So first thing we're going to want to do here is distribute. So we're going to get 8 minus 2x minus 5x equals 78. Okay, and that is distributive property. We can subtract these two. So again, we're just using the term combine like terms as a shortcut. But really what we're doing is subtracting. So we get 8 minus 7x equals 78, and that is addition or subtraction. Right, you can think of it as adding a negative or subtraction. Okay, then we need to subtract 8 from both sides. So we're going to get negative 7x equals 70. And that is subtraction. Property of equality. So note the difference here. Okay, this one we're just subtracting on the same side, so we just call it subtraction. Here we're subtracting from both sides, so we're going to call it the subtraction property of equality because you're subtracting from both sides. Okay, then we're going to divide by negative 7 on both sides, so we're going to get x equals negative 10. Okay, and the reason for this is division property of equality. If we divide on one side, we have to divide by the same thing on the other side. Scroll down here to the next one. Okay, so statements, reasons. Okay, divide them up. So we always start with our given. Okay, so that's going to be 5x minus 3 equals 52. Okay, if we add to both sides, if we add 3 to both sides, we get 5x equals 55. So how did we get that? We use the addition property of equality. We add it to both sides. Okay, and then we can use the division property of equality. Okay, and we end up, when we divide both sides by 5, we get x equals 11. There we go. Statements. Reasons. Okay. Always start with your given. Okay, which is -6 quantity x minus 2 plus 4 quantity 3 minus 6x equals -36. Okay, our first step here is going to be distributive property. Is to use the distributive property. Distributive property. Okay, so when we do that, we get -6x plus 12 plus 12 minus 24x equals -36. Okay, we can use the addition property, so we can just do addition. Okay, so we get -30x plus 24 equals -36. We can subtract 24 from both sides, so we get -30x equals -60. That is our subtraction property of equality, because we're doing it to both sides, right? We're going to subtract 24 from both sides. -36 minus 24 is -60. Then if we divide both sides by -30, we're going to get x equals 2. And we get that by using the division property of equality. Division property of equality. Let's go to the other side. First proof here, it's not really a proof, it's just asking us for the reasons for each step. So the first thing we have is segment addition postulate, right? So z is between x and y, therefore xz plus zy equals xy. That's our segment addition. Postulate. Okay. And then they substituted in the values. They knew xz was 3 times quantity n plus 4. They knew zy was 3n. And they knew that xy was 42. So they did substitution property of equality. Substitution. Okay. Then they distributed out 3 times n plus 4, so 3n plus 12. That's distributive property. Okay, and then they added 3n plus 3n, so that's addition. I'm not sure where the other marker is. It's making that happen. Addition. Okay, and then it was to subtract 12 from both sides, so that's the subtraction property of equality. Okay, and then we did division property of equality to get n equals 5. Divided both sides by 6. Okay, let's look at the next one. So this one is simpler. They did the distributive property. They were given this. They did the distributive property. Okay, then they subtracted 15 from both sides, so that's the subtraction property of equality. Okay, and then they divided both sides by 5, so that's the division property of equality. 5 here through 14. So these we had to use our half sheet with all the properties on there. So angle Z is congruent to angle Z. That is our reflexive property. So that is reflexive property. Okay. If 12x equals 48, then x equals 7. So how do they go from this to this? They divided both sides by 12. So that's our division property of equality. Okay. If the measure of angle A is 15, then 3 times the measure of angle A is 45. That's the multiplication property of equality because we multiplied 3 on both sides. Multiplication property of equality. Okay. 3x plus 14 equals 80. Then 3x equals 66. So how did we go from here to here? We did that by subtracting 14 from both sides. So that is your subtraction property of equality. Okay, if 2x plus y equals 5 and x equals y, then 2x plus x equals 5. So instead of the y, they put x, and they did that because they substituted it in. So that is our substitution property of equality. Okay. Here we had 2 times quantity of 3x plus 5 equals 6x plus 10. So they distributed. So that's our distributive property. If ST is congruent to QR, segment ST is congruent to segment QR, then segment QR is congruent to segment ST. That is our symmetric property. Right? You can just switch them. That's symmetric. Okay. XY equals XY. Okay. Again, that's reflexive. So this is really the reflexive property of congruence. This is our reflexive property of equality. Okay, if KL equals MN and then MN equals KL, so that is symmetric. So this is really symmetric property of equality. This one's really symmetric property of congruence. Okay, then if AB minus BC equals 12, then AB equals 12 plus BC. So we added BC to both sides, so that is our addition property. Okay. We got 2 more proofs to go. Okay, we probably got to zoom in on these so we have enough room. Okay, so and if you weren't here, we did these together. So if you weren't here, let's fill them in. So first step is the given. Okay, so we know AB is going to equal 2y. We know BC is going to equal 3y minus 9. And we know AC equals 21. So we have 3 givens here. AB is 2y, BC is 3y minus 9, and AC is 21. Okay, we have a segment here, and a segment, and then the full thing. So we probably want an equation to solve for y. So we're going to use the segment addition postulate. Okay, the segment addition postulate, which tells us if B is between A and C, then AB plus BC equals AC. So AB plus BC equals AC. Okay, now we can substitute in the information we have. So AB here is 2y, BC is 3y minus 9, and AC is 21. We got that by doing substitution. Property of equality. Okay. We can add together 3y and 2y, so that's 5y minus 9 equals 21, so that's going to be addition. Okay. We can add 9 to both sides, and we get 5y equals 30. So this one is the addition property of equality. Okay, note the difference here. This one we're just doing addition. We're adding 2y plus 3y on one side. Here we would be adding 9 to both sides. Since we're adding it to both, that's our addition property of equality. Okay, and then we're going to end up with y equals 6, which is what we're trying to prove. And we get that by using the division property of equality. We're dividing 5 on both sides. So we start with our given. We need an equation, so we use the segment addition postulate to get an equation. We substitute in what we know, and then from there we can do the algebra to solve. Last one here is going to be the angle one. Okay, we might have to write it a little smaller. So they are giving us 3 pieces of information on this one. The measure of angle AOB, okay, is x. The measure of angle BOC is 2x plus 10. And the measure of angle AOC is 139. So AOC is 139. The measure of angle AOB is x, and BOC is 2x plus 10. Okay, we need an equation here to solve for x. So they're going to get that equation by using the angle addition postulate. So the angle addition postulate is going to tell us the measure of angle AOB plus the measure of angle BOC. Right, the two small angles, AOB and BOC, we're going to add together to get the measure of angle AOC, which is the big one. So that is our angle addition postulate. Okay. If B is in the interior of angle AOC, then angle AOB, the measure of angle AOB plus the measure of angle BOC is going to equal the measure of angle AOC. Small part plus part equals 4. Okay, from there we can substitute in our pieces of information from 1 into 2. So AOB is x, measure of BOC is 2x plus 10, and the measure of angle AOC is 139. We get that by substituting. So substitution property of equality. We can add, so we get 3x plus 10 equals 139. So we get that by doing addition. Okay, we can subtract 10 from both sides, so we get 3x equals 129. So we subtract from both sides, that's the subtraction property of equality. Okay, and then we can divide 3 from both sides, so we get x equals 43, and we get that by the division property of equality, dividing on both sides. Division property of equality. Okay. And there's our proof. So we had our givens, our 3 givens. We need an equation, so we use the angle addition postulate to come up with our equation. We substitute them in, and then we do the algebra from there to solve. And again, under 20 minutes, we're doing good.